to tie that up with a bow, why should you care? You can now design a mobile-first experience for your customers on Amazon. You could not do this before. You cannot do this unless you have premium A+ content. Hey, Matt, I'm super excited to chat with you a little about premium A+ content. You and I have had some conversations about this in the past for some brands that you've been working with. And I know you and we've talked about it, and I think it's worth that we have a conversation just so I can relay some information that I know that my team has noticed, both for brands that we operate and service, as well as some of our own products. So yeah, I just want to have a pretty just open conversation, and I've got some stuff prepared for you around some examples I wanted to show, but just have a high level conversation about premium A+ content, some of the differences between basic and all that.
Awesome. No, I'm looking forward to it. So what is, for me, as not somebody who deals in this particular space in e-commerce, what is premium A+ content and why do I need to care?
Yeah, so premium A+ content, a lot like basic, it's a gated feature. And it's a gated feature that allows basically enhanced, product listing features. And a lot of, your audience and your customers will obviously know that. That being said, something that I always come across in like my experience that surprises me is even though a lot of people know, what basic A+ content is, they have some familiarity that, I know I can feature, images and some basic graphics on the listing. A surprising number of brands that, I talk to aren't implementing either basic A+ content or even premium. In my opinion, it's a little bit of a blind spot that some brands have because premium A+ has been out there for over a year. Even listings that have basic A+ content, premium is a huge opportunity because we can talk more about this in a bit. We have access to different options for the modules that are far more interactive and just more compelling than what we have in basic A+. To hit you with some numbers, with the brands that we service and with our own products, what we've seen kind of across the board as an average percentage is an increase of conversion rate of around 3 to 10% for listings that have really any kind of A+ content relative to those that don't. And we notice actually a much higher obviously percentage towards that average for folks that are starting to implement some of those premium features.
Well, I mean, I think that makes sense. And I think what a lot of people forget is that, for thousands of years, right, however long people have been shopping, the way you shopped is you went into a place, right? You put your hands on the object. There was sight, but there was smell, there was touch. You could interact with the seller. You could ask questions. It was a human in-person interaction, right? So we've taken that and put it online. You've lost touch, you lost smell, you lost the ability to directly interact with the seller, right? So we're trying to replace as much of that as we can to put that feeling back into the shopping experience. And I think what it sounds like, and you're going to go through and tell me how all these features work, but it sounds like what we're hoping to do here is rebuild some of that experience in the online world, put moving pictures back into it, put more information back into it, put question and answer back into it, and optimize it for the online experience to create as much of that compelling in-person shopping experience as you can in the online world. And I think what your numbers are already telling you is the more you can do that, the better your conversions. It makes sense. So it makes sense that people should pay attention to this if it's available to them. And maybe you can cover who can use this and who can't. But also, if you can use it, it sounds like it's foolish not to, right?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, Matt. I mean, this is Amazon's way of trying to replicate some of that in-store experience for customers. And the number and the data doesn't lie, right? The increase in conversion rate, I think, speaks for itself. And so it is surprising to me how low on the priority list or the level of urgency that it has for some brands when it comes to implementing some of this stuff. So no, I mean, I couldn't agree more. This is Amazon's tool that they're giving us to create some of that interactivity, to replicate some of that in-store retail experience. And it's our job as brands and sellers to do just that. I think something that'll probably be obviously pretty top of mind for folks is like, okay, you're telling me that this is really important. You're telling me that I've got to do this. How do I know if I even qualify for this in the first place? A lot of brands, they may not even know that they're qualified. Really, the criteria is pretty simple. You need to be brand registered, and you need that to have A+ content of any kind. So that goes for basic as well as premium. So you need to be, in the Amazon brand registry, and then you need to basically have an A+ brand story for all of your listings in the catalog. And then you need to have 15 A plus content submissions approved within the last 12 months. So pretty basic criteria. Like I said, some folks have qualified for that. They may not even know it. Even if you haven't qualified for it, the bar is low enough where you should, with just a little bit of work, be able to meet that criteria. And to harp on just one point a little bit more around the conversion rate stuff, something I've been talking with about a lot with my team and with brands that we speak with is there's a lot of uncertainty around the economy and just macroeconomic factors outside of anyone's control. And with that concern, which is reasonable, if the overall pie is going to be smaller, you're going to have to convert more of what that pie is. And these are the tools that we have to do so. Not to mention, if you're in a category that it exists with a lot of, maybe you're coming in a little bit later, maybe your review count's a little bit lower, maybe your BSR is historically not in as great of a place as some of the competitors that have been there longer, but they haven't invested in some of these experiences we're talking about. They haven't made that concerted push to do so. You really stand to benefit if you take the time to invest more in bolstering, this premium A plus content.
Now it makes a lot of sense. And I think, the brands that want to rise to the top are going to take the time to do this. And the people who are coasting, or maybe, we see it with our clients from time to time. Sometimes you just get lucky. You find a hero product that you didn't really realize was going to be a hero product, but that's how it turned out. But you didn't put a lot of time and effort into really developing it. And you're vulnerable to somebody else who has got that hunger to be out there to compete and rise in the ranks. So I think everybody who wants to have a long-term viable business needs to be thinking along these lines. So what are some of the features that you can put into place with the premium A plus content that you don't get in the basic?
Yeah, for sure. I'll get into some of the technicalities and the jargon just a little bit, and then I promise we'll get into some actual examples so we can show folks what we're talking about very specifically. But the main differences here that I want to cover is that there's the same amount of modules. So there's 7 modules in basic A plus content, and there's 7 modules in premium A plus content. So the modules are the same. You might notice if you're in your basic A plus content editor, you might actually see it says 5 modules. Don't know why Amazon hasn't fixed this, because you're able to add up to 7. So the number of modules between both basic and premium is the same. The key difference here is the number of options you have for those modules. So in basic, you have 16 options for your modules, while in premium, you have 19 options for those modules. So those are the key differences. But even more important than just the number of the modules is the fact that you have some interactive elements in premium that you don't have in basic. And these are the interactive elements, to go back to what we were saying before, that are much more effective in trying to recreate some of that in-store experience for the customer. So give me a second. I'll actually try to show you what some of those examples are. At a high level, the 3 main interactive elements that I think are worth getting into a little bit more depth on are going to be video or image carousels. So really an upgrade around carousels in the A plus content, what you're able to show there and demonstrate. Something called image hotspots. And then, of course, just video as an asset and a medium itself. So bear with me here, but I am going to actually share my screen to give you, it's better to actually, I think, see a visual representation of this as opposed to just talk about it. But if you can see my screen over here, what you'll notice immediately, we're in preview mode on some A plus content for premium. You'll see I can have a featured video right here at the top. So again, video is obviously a really compelling medium to tell the story of your brand, of your product. I do think it's effective to kind of feature that thing, first and foremost right at the top. So again, don't have this in basic, right out of the gate. We now have the ability to add a video right there at the top to premium A plus content, or anywhere within the A plus content. If I scroll down, I was talking about an image hotspot earlier, which I'm a big fan of. You can see if I hover over these circles, a little text box appears that gives me information about what the product is, and just you can say whatever I want regarding the information. But I really find, with a lot of design, Matt, the challenge is trying to condense a lot of information and to communicate a lot of things in a restricted amount of space. I'm a big fan of this interactive feature for premium because it allows us to do just that. I can have, a nice looking image like this, but then I can still communicate relevant and important details about the product right within the A plus itself. I want to also show over here, similar idea where we have the video featured on the top, But something that I think is really cool, again, going on the theme of these upgraded carousels that we get in premium that we don't get in basic, we have this really interesting and engaging option to obviously scroll images or videos, whatever we want. But just as interesting or as important as that, we actually have the ability to put actual call outs right in the carousel itself. So because we're in preview, I'm not going to actually click on this and because we're in preview, but this actually links right to the product itself. I just think it's really compelling and interesting that right within, featuring different items on the A plus content itself, we actually put call outs right to where that product is. So if you're, if you have a carousel or a brand or a collection of products and you have, you're featuring a bunch of them in a carousel of images or videos, I can actually link right to those with a call out button in the graphic or the image itself. So that's very compelling and cool. I also have this Q&A. This isn't a feature in basic. So, instead of having customers scroll down to the reviews and look for some, frequently asked questions there, I can actually address, and actually, if I want, curate some of those FAQs or Q&As right at the top, which I think is very compelling. And it's just, it's visually pretty compelling as well. And nice to be able to have that flexibility to address those Q&As right as a call out in your A plus content. Additionally, there's these comparison charts, which are a massive upgrade from what we could do in basic, both in the functionality, again, to link to other products, which I think is, again, this is all just free marketing, right? It's taken a lot of work to get that session to your listing. You either paid for that through advertising or you got there through organic search. The customer is on the listing, and now you've got to take every opportunity you can to obviously educate them on your product or brand, but even link to other products that that they have potential to be interested in. So you can do that right from these comparison charts, which are a big upgrade from what we could do in basic. We'll get to this in just a little bit, but there's also a pretty big upgrade on how these appear on mobile compared to what we could do on desktop. I just want to show you this map because this is just another navigation for the carousel. We could spend the next 40 minutes looking at different carousel. Very compelling, and there's just a lot of really fun ways to kind of, again, there's nothing novel about a carousel, but again, you have this menu header at the top that you can scroll between as in addition to this scroll navigation on the side. So I just wanted to show you that as well. Okay, on to what I really was excited to show you on the mobile front. You and I had talked about this a little bit before we started to record, but if there's one reason I really want people to care about this premium stuff, maybe a bit more than they do already, or at least increase the level of urgency or priority around implementing some of this, it is what we're able to do on the mobile front. So different between Basic A+, where Basic A+ has the same thing here, right? I can see what the content looks like on desktop versus mobile. I can go back and forth. There's nothing really novel or new about that. What is novel and very important, and maybe the most important thing, in my opinion, about premium is our ability to create assets and graphics that are specifically just for mobile. So anyone who's done any amount of work, formatting an application to be compatible on various screen sizes, desktop, mobile, etc., knows firsthand the difference between I've got a big desktop image that I need to somehow condense and make a lot smaller and make it not look terrible on mobile, to now I have the flexibility and the ability to take an asset and format that just for mobile. It's a real game changer. And as we all know, the majority of traffic and buyers on Amazon are mobile users. They are mobile traffic. So really, again, to make my case redundantly and more times than is probably necessary, this is why you should care. You can now meaningfully create a mobile-first experience for customers on a listing that you couldn't do before. So again, just to scroll down and feature Q&A, all of that good stuff. But I wanted to highlight, twofold. One, how much better this comparison chart looks on mobile. This was the basic comparison chart. There'd be a really wonky scroll at the bottom, and altogether just not a very cohesive or understandable experience for the customer. Now we can have this drop-down menu that we can navigate. The customer can filter specifically by what they want in terms of what they're looking for in comparison. And of course, they can also link and click to these other products and see those if they so choose. Additionally, that call out that I had before, Matt, that I was showing you, this call to action button over here, I want to show you on mobile, we have the ability, and this is again, all premium, I can now have that call to action below the image itself. So we can have a really high-performing, engaging carousel, and we don't have to compromise on the call to action. It formats it very nicely. in a way that I think is very cohesive for the mobile user and the mobile experience. So again, to tie that up with a bow, why should you care? You can now design a mobile first experience for your customers on Amazon. You could not do this before. You cannot do this unless you have Premium A Plus content.
Yeah, I think that is super key. I mean, I know personally, most of the time when I'm buying stuff from Amazon, it's on my phone. So I think, the ability to tailor make a mobile experience for that is key. But the way I look at this overall, and you can tell me if I'm thinking about it wrong, but this is how I kind of think about this. Imagine your customer is somebody who walks into a giant trade show place, right? There's all kinds of booths. And the average booth is just a small table in the middle row in the middle, and it looks like all the other booths. And this gives you the ability to be the corner booth, twice the size of anyone else, huge graphics, huge, lights and sirens and all kinds of spinny, wheels, and it attracts your attention. And you didn't have to pay anything extra for that booth, right? I mean, maybe create some additional creative, but essentially Amazon's giving you these tools to create a much bigger, more exciting experience for the customer who's walking in and trying to decide from whom they'd like to purchase. You have the ability to be a plain, boring booth, or you can add in all these features, all these extras, the videos, the carousels, the call outs, the hotspots, the mobile optimization, and really wow people. And the data shows that they're impressed by this. This makes a difference. This ups your conversion rate. So why wouldn't you take the time to make your booth as big and as attractive and as flashy and as compelling as possible with the tools that you have access to? I mean, to me, it seems like a no-brainer. I mean, if I was in the e-commerce space as a seller, I would be all over this.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It really is a surprise to me, Matt, that more folks, that this is just lower on the priority list than you might think for a lot of folks. And I think a lot of folks and sellers perform really well, and they've gotten by with listings that have done fine. Maybe they've got A+ content, some basic A+ content. Maybe they don't, but it's it's high converting enough, right? It does reasonably well. And sometimes there's more emphasis put on, okay, what can we do on the PPC front? As you know, something that we do a lot of, and that's a huge part of this equation as well. But if we're looking at also trying to affect our PPC returns, our return on advertising, it's no mystery to anyone, the higher our listing convert, the better return we're going to get on our ads, right? If we're able to convert more of those sessions that get to the listing, I mean, this is how we take market share on Amazon. There's 3 levers you can pull for sales. There's the on-page conversion rate, which is what we spent the most of this conversation talking about. And there's 2 ways to get sessions to the listing. It's either going to be through organic search, customers, searching for keywords, and you're indexing for those terms, and they're clicking on your listing that way, or it's going to be through you paid for that session. You are paying dollars and cents. Material amounts of your margin are coming out to get that session to that listing. You need to make sure it's as high converting as possible. It's a huge piece of the puzzle. And like I said, I mean, you have 3 levers you can pull to drive sales on Amazon. This is one of them. And I think it deserves a bit more attention, a bit more focus.
Yeah, I think, in this day and age, with as much competition as there is, you can't ignore any of them, right? You have to be optimizing across all of them. And this is what we talk to our clients too about. You can't ignore any of them. You can't drive sales and ignore profit, right? You have to be profitable or else the business doesn't work. You can't focus on ad spend to the exclusion of cost of goods sold, right? You have to make sure the margins make sense on that. You have to look at all of it. And it's a very data-driven kind of business, which is great because that means the people who look at the data and make data-driven decisions tend to do better over time because they're optimizing on all those different metrics. So I think this was a great intro for people who weren't aware of it, or maybe a push in the right direction for people who knew about it but hadn't taken full advantage of it, that this is another place that you can stand out, you can differentiate, and you can improve your business. And again, you're not paying extra to be part of this program. It's there for you either, if it's already been ungated for you, great. If not, like you said, the bar is relatively low to be able to get in and be able to participate. And it just, to me, it seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, I agree. What I'll do, Matt, is I'll put in the show notes. My team did a pretty comprehensive blog that covers this in depth. So if you want a visual aid you can reference and go back to some of the examples that I highlighted in the screen sharing, you can do so. And also see firsthand how you qualify, what's involved in that. I'll throw it out there. Anyone who has any questions, just literal questions about Premium A+, how to qualify, maybe they're not at the metric where they need to be, but they know they want to qualify for premium. I just want to throw it out there. I'll put some info on how they can get in touch with our team, and we'll walk them through the process of what they need to do to get set up.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate your sharing all this with me. I'm definitely going to go tell all of our people, hey, if you're not doing this, do it. If you're doing a little, do more. And
Yeah.
if they have any questions, go talk to you about it. But yeah, thanks so much for sharing this. I think this was super helpful, and I think it's going to do a lot of people a lot of good.
Yeah, Matt, thanks so much for taking the time to chat with me about this.
All right, take care.